want to give everybody a chance to get that one streaming if they're not on the all-cam site. So just let me start out with the pipping. The first hatches for the first egg are usually 36 to 40 days from initial lay. So we're at, I believe, 37 for the west end and 36 for the first two harbors egg today. So they've probably internally pipped, and the adults are probably hearing some chirping, and should get an external pip in the next day or two, if not an outright hatch. The first one was about the eggs on Santa Rosa last year. That nest flew out of the tree about probably a week after the chicks hatched, so both of those died. And they currently have 2 chicks in the nest. We determine when the eaglet is fledged by the fact that it's gone somewhere it couldn't have just walked to. So for the west end, for example, as long as they're off the pinnacle, they're considered fledged. For 2 harbors, they really need to have flown off of that nest ridge somewhere or been seen flying, because they can walk pretty much all over the island just right off the nest. The way the birds have been acting today at 2 harbors in the west end, I would assume that there's some chirping going on in the eggs. They seem to be bouncing up and down quite a bit. But the first external pip you're not really going to be able to see. It's just a really slight raising of the eggshell. Let's see, the phenomenon of 2 females on a nest, that's very rare. I've only heard of maybe 5 or 6 nests that have had 3 birds on them, and they've not known the identity of those birds. So it's really hard to say what the role of each bird was at those 3 bird nests. For ours, we knew the individual's ID, and we had cameras on them, so we knew the proportion of time that the birds were sitting at the nest, each of them, who was delivering prey, etc., and they were all 3 taking an equal part in the entire chick rearing. Our theory is that because the 2 females were released together, they thought they were sisters, and there's probably a lack of males on the island when they first formed the trio. And genetically speaking, if you help your sister raise offspring, then you're actually passing on a portion of your genes as well. So it's better to help your sister pass on some genes than to not pass on any genes at all. Can an egg have a double yolk and hatch? I have never heard of a double yolked egg hatching. There's only a limited amount of resources in an egg. You can't add anything more to it, so there wouldn't be enough resources for 2 chicks to fully develop and hatch. Would we ever consider writing a book? We've thought of doing something more like a coffee table type book to describe all that we've done to restore the eagles to the island, but we've just never had the time to do that because we've got so many nice pictures and everything. We've probably put together a pretty nice little story there, but we just haven't had the time or the energy to do that yet. Our 82 array is big as Avalon. They're probably similar size. The females are generally about 12 to 14 pounds. Actually, Avalon might be a little bit bigger because their first year they have longer wing feathers so that they're able to fly a little bit better and soar around looking for carrion. So actually when a fledgling is larger than its parents. Let's see, how many of the island nests are incubating? Let's see, here on Catalina we have Seal Rocks and Rattlesnake, both with 2 chicks each. We have 2 harbors in the west end and Pinnacle Rock, all expected to hatch within the next week and a half. Up on Santa Cruz Island we have what we're calling the Fraser Point pair, which is A49 Princess Cruz and her brother. And we have Sauces Pelican Harbor, and actually Cueva Valdez laid recently. So we've got 4 up there. We're still waiting for another 2 or 3. We've got 2 chicks in a nest on Santa Rosa Island. We're not sure if the second pair has eggs or not, and don't know the status of the Anacapa birds yet. That's a hard island to get to. We haven't heard anything about Sassy. We haven't picked up her radio transmitter, and that's a simple VHF transmitter, so you actually have to go out with an antenna and a radio and find her. So no idea where she went, most likely to the mainland, and just hasn't been seen by anybody who's known to report her to us. When the chicks are hatching, what you're most likely going to see is the male start to bring food back to the nest, because once it starts hearing a peeping of the chicks, then it sort of gets him going to bring food. They're not just going to stand around and watch the chicks hatch. Most of the times the hatch actually occurs underneath the incubating bird. Proper term, it could be a chick, it can be an eaglet. Chick I usually consider the first, I don't know, few weeks. Once it starts getting its plumage, then I sort of go to an eaglet, but they're interchangeable. Next question, please. Initially with the eagle tags, we would go by the last number of the year being the first number. So for instance, we would have used this in 2000, 2010, and then the second number was the number of the bird that season. But now we've used all of the tags at least once, some 2 or 3 times, and we're just going for what's available. I try to keep them to that old standard, but it doesn't work for the most part. So now it's more of what's available. I'll reuse a tag if the bird is known to be dead or we haven't heard from it in about 10 years. What is the average number of fish a pair brings to a nest each day? It's usually about 1 prey delivery every 3 hours or so. So it can be maybe 4 or 5, sometimes 6 a day. And Boodle asked if transmitters are controversial, I assume. I guess some people don't like to see them on them, but they really help us locate the birds, especially on the northern islands, where they can actually jump between all 4 islands in a single day. There's no way that we can physically track the birds and know if they're getting along all right. So I think the wing tags are more controversial than the backpacks because of the visibility. The Pelican Harbor pair keeps changing nests. Their first nest was just falling apart. That tree was dying. The branches were breaking off, and it was pretty slanted. It really was more like this. And the second one, where I spent all the time putting the new camera in, that was really exposed to the wind. When I was just sitting up there putting in the camera, the tree was swaying pretty well and making me nauseous, so the birds probably didn't like that so much. And it's also visible to the next pair over, the Fry's Harbor pair, so they may have wanted to get a little more solitude. How long will we continue our restoration efforts? We're probably going to be monitoring the nests for the next 10 years or so, doing less effort, just monitoring known nests and looking for new nests when we have time. But so we're going to reduce personnel next year and go to more of a monitoring phase. For the pipping, it's a 48-hour process. There's an internal pip, is when they break through into the air cell of the egg and start breathing for the first time. About 24 hours later, they'll externally pip and break a hole into the outside of the shell, which lets in fresh air. And then about 24 hours after that, they'll open up the end of the egg in about a 1-hour period. Have we heard any more about K-12? Just that last report we had, I can't remember exactly where she was now. Montana. She was in Montana. So that's the last we heard of her. On the legal taking of bald eagles by Indian tribes, it is part of their heritage. I don't know. I really haven't read enough about it to know what it is they want to do with these, whether it's actually killing them or just taking them for their ceremony and then releasing them. So I really don't know about that. They're going to get a federal permit, but I don't know what they're going to need at the state level too, because bald eagles are still endangered in most states. So I'm not sure what else is going to be required beyond the federal permit.